Thank you. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight for the Boardroom 2020. This is the fourth installment already with one to go. We're so glad you're here. I'm Bonnie McEwen with the Northwest District Office of the State Library, and I'm joined tonight by Nancy Medema, who is a program director. In Des Moines, I'm also joined by my colleague, Jay Peterson, who is the consultant for the North Central District, and Samantha Bowers, who is our continuing education consultant. And we will have a special guest star that I hope we will see in just a few minutes. Our registration numbers have been really strong this fall, so we thank you for that. The turnout has been very gratifying from month to month, and I think it's really great evidence that the education and training we've been providing for library boards is needed and valued.
Yeah, we've been really pleasantly surprised at how this series of trainings has garnered so many attendees.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us every time.
Yes, thank you. And do remember to continue, if you just joined us recently, to continue to tell us in chat if you have a viewing party going on, a watch party in your library. Tell us that and how many people are gathered together.
And I am seeing a couple of chats that the connection is spotty. Sometimes it could be wind. I know that is sometimes an issue. So do know that we are recording this and you will be able to watch it later if that's necessary because you don't get enough live.
All right, well, with each of these boardroom webinars, we like to show this slide, which shows you two pretty important publications from the State Library. On the left is the current Trustees Handbook, and on the right is the Public Library Standards booklet in service to Iowa. We like to show these because they're very interconnected. They're both very important to the work of library boards, of course, but they're also very connected to each other. And there are often connections that we make between standards and library management and library governance in the many continuing education classes we offer. So while that is still the current edition, we need some truth in advertising here. We have many teams at the State Library working on our strategic planning, and Nancy and I are on the Better Boards team and a few other of our colleagues. We took on a very big deal project in 2020 with the hopes of updating the Trustees Handbook to a snappy new edition, and Emily has already, well in advance of our editing process, has given us this beautiful cover art for our new booklet. But now comes the truth in advertising. We're not finished yet. The new edition.
I will say that's because of the pandemic and being sidetracked.
Yes, yes. It's not up on our website yet, and both Nancy and I think Jay too, have had some questions earlier this week with so many of you are eager beavers wanting to grab a hold of this and find it on our website so you could follow along tonight. But we were sidelined during the spring and summer, so we are admittedly behind schedule. The best we can do tonight is offer you a preview of what we're working on. So think of it like a movie trailer.
And we know you all understand because all of your libraries too have been somewhat sidelined the last several months. So
yeah,
we're asking for a little bit of grace in getting this out to you. We hope to have it out yet by the end of the year. But to be totally honest, we still have 4 chapters to write and get it edited and formatted before it gets put up on our website. And I do have a question for you at the end of this webinar that I'm really hoping you can give us some feedback on moving forward with this. So stay tuned for that.
Great. Stay tuned. Well, if you've joined us for previous episodes in the Boardroom 2020, then you know that our programs this year have brought forward some nonfiction books that we've already discussed in another venue. We have another series from the State Library called Big Ideas Book Discussions. These are online book groups that meet quarterly, and we read nonfiction books that are well outside of library management, but we look for the application to library management. So this year in the Boardroom, my idea was, why don't we get more mileage out of these books and apply the concepts from these books to the business of library boards. So that's what we've been doing, and you can see the books that we've used so far. You'll find all of these are available for purchase, except of course the one that's not yet published. But we have one more to go, and that is in November when we will take up the book, The Ones We've Been Waiting For.
And I will tell you, I am currently reading it, and I really like it.
So she's given me a review already.
If that's an incentive for anyone to go out and find the book, whether you buy it or borrow it from a library, I currently have my libraries. I promise I will get it. This is my last renewal. I'll get it back soon. But it is really, really interesting. Much more so than some of the other ones we've read for these series, but so yes, that's my teaser. It is very good and it holds your attention.
Good to hear. After we hang up tonight from Zoom, go jump on Amazon or your bookseller and go buy your copy, right? Or Silo, and go find your copy. Well, here's where we're headed tonight in the boardroom. This is our plan. We have a special welcome letter coming up for you, and we will preview the contents of the new edition of the Trustees Handbook. Let's underline preview the contents. And we'll also use a Zoom room feature that Sam mentioned a little bit ago that we've not yet used in the boardroom programs. We have discussion questions queued up for you to talk about in breakout rooms. So we're going to give that a whirl tonight. And just a note about our intention with this new edition of the Trustees Handbook, really the content is not that dramatically different from the current version. It's just that the current version is already 6 years old. Time flies. And there were many sections that we noticed needed updating, and we also noticed that were several sections that really benefited just from shortening and streamlining. We wanted to reorder the sequence of chapters as well to make it flow a little bit more logically. We have turned at least 2 chapters into short summaries that we hope will be really helpful to print and share with new trustees, because they won't be pages and pages. They'll only be a 1 or 2 page look. So that's kind of our plan for tonight and our intention behind the revision. And now, is our guest star here? Yes?
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh, good.
I was going to say, I don't see him.
Oh, good, because otherwise I need to stall for time. I mentioned that a welcome letter is coming alive, and indeed it is, in our new Trustees Handbook. State Librarian Michael Scott, pictured here, includes a welcome letter to all of you who are serving on library boards. But we can do better than a printed welcome letter. We have the real McCoy with us. So I'll stop sharing and welcome Michael Scott.
This is Sam. Apparently, Michael has lost his ability to unmute, and so I will re-permit that ability. I'm sorry, I thought we were all set up. All right. Okay, Michael, you should be set.
Fantastic. So who's this guest star that we're waiting for?
That would be you.
Oh,
that would be you.
Really? Oh, please. Thank you. That's much too kind. Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight, and finding out a little bit more about your role as a trustee at your local library. And I just want to say welcome to Iowa Library Board Service. I'm just going to read my letter here. It says, congratulations on your appointment as a trustee of your public library. As you embark on this important role, I would like to express my appreciation for your willingness to serve your community and to provide exceptional public library service to your residents. Public libraries are the heart and soul of every community, and library boards ensure that they remain strong, vibrant, and relevant to all users. Library trustees freely contribute their time and energy because they believe in the importance of strong public libraries in their communities. As trustees, you have the responsibility to ensure that Iowa's public libraries remain well-funded, well-managed, and well-used. Your time, generosity, and dedication are vital to our success here at the state level. The public library is open and welcoming to all. Your library has a role in educational support, family literacy, economic development, and as a community anchor. These roles cannot be overstated. With your commitment to advocating for library resources and to supporting the library administration and staff as representatives of your community, Iowa libraries will continue to be strong and successful across the state. On behalf of myself and all of the great colleagues that I work with here at the State Library of Iowa, I want to extend my gratitude for your leadership and your service. We hope that this handbook will be a helpful reference during your tenure on the board. Please contact us if we can assist you in any way. Again, congratulations on your appointment. So, okay, in case you weren't sure who I am, I'm Michael Scott, the State Librarian.
Well, thank you, Michael. You made a letter that they will see in the handbook once we get it published.
Fantastic.
Right up at the beginning, but you made it come alive a little more than it might have otherwise.
Great.
So we appreciate your attending.
Sure.
So, Bonnie, I need to have you reshare your slides. And you're muted, Bonnie.
I will indeed. The slides are coming up. And my thanks to Michael. You're welcome to stay as long as you can this evening. Happy to have you here.
Okay, so like Bonnie said, you know, this is kind of our updated version. We have had a version of the trustee handbook, at least as far back as I could find, since 2009. And then it was updated and put on our website for the first time in 2014. And so now 6 years, soon to be possibly 7, depending on when we get it published, we are coming up with the next version of it. So hopefully you've had opportunities, depending on how long you've been on your board, to use this in some version, whether you've looked at it online or you print it off and have copies that you make notes in as you learn things about it and try to, you know, highlight things you need to remember. So we have a poll that we want to kind of get an idea of how you have used this, and you can answer as many as you want. So if as a group you talk about it, if you have a group there, or if you're by yourself, answer, and even if you're a librarian, how have you used this with your trustees, or how are you as a trustee used this? Or if you have something that's not here that you think is really good, please put it in chat. And then we will show you what the popular answers are when. Obviously, our goal is to have it be a helpful tool. Okay, I'm not seeing it move much anymore, a little bit.
All right, should we end it and reveal the answers? Can everybody see the results?
I'm hoping. I saw them the whole time. So, so it looks like the biggest answer, the most popular answer, would be as a reference book when questions come up, which is really what we're doing with the new version of it. That's pretty much our goal for the new version, is to make it an easy to use reference tool. Orientation for new trustees got 74%. That's awesome, and a really good way to utilize the tool too. 48% was ongoing board education, kind of reading and discussing chapters of board meetings. That's a great way to get your education in and to remind yourself of different aspects. Obviously, there are things in the trustee handbook that you don't do on a every week or every month basis, or even every year, depending on some of them. So it's nice to have it, that you review it every once in a while. And then not nearly as many people do it, that they share it with their city councils or city clerks or other city personnel, which hopefully that's an idea for you, because sometimes I think that's important for them to know too, especially your mayor, because that's when they're the ones who appoint you. So there is a note in here. So thanks, Jay. Okay, so thanks, Bon. You can go ahead and get rid of the
Yes, I'll just make one note of the second option there and how to use it. If you haven't yet done that with any previous edition, reading and discussing chapters at board meetings from time to time, what a great thing to start doing when the brand new edition comes out. That would be a great way to learn about the new handbook.
So, and somebody wrote in chat that they've used it when updating or revising their board bylaws or policies, which is a really good way to do too. That's a great use of it.
That is a great use of it.
Someone is using it right now while they interview for a new library director. Awesome, because
Holy
hopefully there's a
cow.
lot of really good information on how you hire a new library director. And I know there was in the old one. There is in the new version too. So great.
And all of those chapters stay intact because they were so important then and they continue to be important now and in the future. So here's a look at a sneak peek.
So here, like Bonnie said, is our sneak peek. Hold on, I got to get rid of the poll on my screen, sorry. This is just, we've done a screenshot of one of the first couple of pages. And this is our chapter 1, First Things First, which kind of just gives a really good overview of what it is to be a board member and what your role is built on. So most of the information, well, we've taken a lot of information that was in the current one, and we've combined some chapters and we've cleared up a lot of the language, so we're not being quite as repetitive as we were before. And we moved some of the information to our state library website. So some information that you need to have really current, relevant information, we have moved and put links to our website, because our website is easily updated as laws change or things happen, and we want you to have really current information. So, and one of the ones that is really relevant for is the legal part. We have kept some legal stuff, but we've also moved some. And we also put information on buildings and renovations on our website, or we will, it's not there yet, because again, that's somewhat information that changes frequently. Some of the requirements change. And so we wanted you to have that up-to-date information. Plus we wanted you to have some links to outside places that would provide better resources for you. So chapter 1 is a quick overview. And it kind of talks about understanding your role as a library trustee, understanding the role your library plays in the community, reading and understanding your city library ordinance, and what's really important is understanding what's required to make changes to that ordinance. And that's something all board members really have to be familiar with. And then this also, chapter also talks about the roles that different entities play in the governance of the library. So your director's role, your city's role, the board's role, staff role, that kind of thing. And then this, like Bonnie said earlier as we started, this is one of those chapters that could be a really nice summary section that you just print off and include in a new board members orientation packet. That would be a really nice way to use this one. And then go ahead, yep. So then here's another one of those nice summary pages that you could do. Chapter 2 looks at the 5 primary responsibilities of a governing library board. And the majority of our boards in Iowa are governing. We do have 2 that are advisory, but they are definitely the exception to the rule. And so these chapters, the 5 primary responsibilities cover hiring a director, so the library that's using it for that, kudos, approving and monitoring the budget, developing and adopting policies, planning for the library's future, and evaluating service and advocating for advancements. We kind of smushed 2 things together because they really fit well. And so those are your 5 the first 5 chapters. And then each of those quick summaries in this chapter is followed by a chapter all on its own with a lot more in-depth information. So here's a look at some of the additional chapters. We have board relationships with the city staff and director, staff, and city. We have evaluating the library director, which kind of goes hand in hand with the hiring, but provides a lot of different aspects, and you use it after you've hired, so it kind of determined its own chapter. Effective board meetings, the best way to hold your board meeting, and a chapter on intellectual freedom and what to do when you get challenged on that. It also includes information on library buildings, library law and legal matters, public library standards, a culture of learning, and then we have the appendix that we have moved a lot that was in the body of the current trustee handbook into the appendix so that it's easy to find. And we thought that would be very helpful too. So the appendix is going to be a really good tool to have access to. So we chose, for the legal part of the legal chapter, we chose the top 9 to 10 legal issues to keep in the handbook and provide the law and explanation and descriptions of that and how it fits in your library. And then the rest of it, we moved to a new feature we have on our website called the Legal Question FAQ, which is an amazing tool that Mandy Easter, our law librarian, has put together based on questions that she has repeatedly gotten in the last few years. And so we had kind of a legal FAQ on our website, but it wasn't searchable. So now you can search your topic or search a question, and it will give you, this is hard to read because it says screenshot and it's tiny print, but you'll find your question and you see where the little red circle is. It says view, and voila, it will take you to the answer. And it gives you a good description, tells you what the law says, how it applies, that kind of thing. This is a somewhat shorter answer. There are some very long involved ones in there. And that is currently up on our website. So you can find it now for any of those pressing questions you have. But always, of course, feel free to call Mandy too. Some of the topics that are in the legal FAQs are policies and legal concerns, HR issues, a lot of HR issues, especially with the pandemic, libraries as city agencies and how those relationships don't always work, but how they should. Programs and services, funding and finance, we get a lot of questions on that and what are the legal responsibilities on multiple parties, and copyright issues. Again, those also became very, very popular with the pandemic and all of the online programming that we started doing. And of course, Mandy is always the first to tell you that she is not a lawyer, and when you get or refer to any of these questions, she is always also recommending that you talk to your city attorney before making any final decisions. She's happy to provide the law and gives an explanation of it and how it fits with libraries, but every issue is different and has its own little quirks in it, and so you are always better off consulting an attorney too. And that I'm sure is mentioned frequently in the FAQ.
Thank you,
So that's
Nancy.
a good part.
Yes, thank you. And that is just, I think, a really classic reason and rationale for why we could shorten that chapter in particular, because we're going to refer you to this page on our website. And it just made sense to do so.
Yeah, it's a great tool.
It's a great tool. Sam Bowers is coming in here to talk with you a bit about our brand new learning management system called Iowa Learns. And as she should be the one to speak about this, because she spearheaded this entire transition from our old CE catalog to our brand new system here. This is going to, though, represent a new chapter in the new Trustees Handbook, and we're calling it A Culture of Learning because board education, as you know, probably explaining why you're here tonight, board education is standard number 8, and it is a tier 1 standard that calls for every member of the library board to participate in continuing education each year. So because we are so bent and intent on offering trustee training year-round, and because we have seen through this Boardroom series just how valuable these kinds of programs are, we think that including a chapter called A Culture of Learning is a great way to just continue to send that message to library boards, and especially helpful, again, to those people who are newly appointed trustees. The fact that they need to participate in lifelong learning for themselves as it applies to their trusteeship shouldn't be a well-kept secret. When they are appointed to the board, that really needs to be an upfront conversation, and so including a chapter in our new handbook is a great way for us to send that message. So with that lead in, Sam, I will let you talk about our new Iowa Learns system.
Yeah, thanks, Bon. I'm just so excited about this. I don't have a ton of time to go into a lot of detail here, but a lot of the librarians in the state, folks who are currently certified with us, should have gotten an email by now saying what you're giving you username information for an account that was created for you that has all your certification data associated with it. So I know individual trustees are not certified, but you do have the option now as a trustee to go ahead and create an account in this system. I'm going to put a link in the chat, and Bonnie also has the URL up on the screen there, but you can create an account and go in and watch any webinar that you find useful. We have stuff on there from HR to budgeting to youth services and many other things. And then the one thing that I particularly am excited about with this that offers us functionality beyond our former system is that it's going to create a transcript for you. So every time you complete a course within the system, that turns up on a transcript and counts your hours. And so our trustees, we ask that you do a handful of hours each year, and so you'll have the ability to keep track of all of that right there if it's a course you took through the system. If you do any kind of outside training, there's a form that is available to us, or that you fill out and comes to us. And we sort of review that you learned something, you learned what you said you thought you might learn, and then we add that to your transcript as well. So all of that learning is going to be reflected there. Tons of great content from the state library, and of course any other outside training you do will be available as well. So I'm really excited about the system. I'm encouraging folks to get in there and play around. If you are currently certified with the state library, or think you are but have not received an email, you can shoot me a note and I'll help you troubleshoot that. But I think we're getting a lot of people in the system. Now watch I say this, my email is probably going to blow up while we're sitting here on this call, but that's all right. I'll answer some emails and keep an eye on this call too. So please do go in and make an account. We had sort of said in previous iterations of our CE catalog and asked for trustees not to make an account to work through your librarian to do all of that. In this system, that's not the case anymore. We encourage you to go in and do it, as Jay said in the chat. So I will put a link to Iowa Learns in the chat right now, as well as my email address. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I'm just really excited about this new system that we have. So.
And for those trustees who are wondering, or the librarians who are wondering how you would then verify the trustee training that they do through their accounts in Iowa Learns, just ask them to send you transcripts and send those in for the accreditation application, and that will work just fine.
Yeah, that will be perfect. Yep. So right when you sign in on that homepage, there's a print transcript button. It pulls up a nice PDF for you, so you can use that very easily as proof of your continuing ed. And for our librarians as well, that's what we'll ask you to send in when it's time for you to recertify. So it's going to be a very, very handy feature, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Will be a great feature. Thank you, Sam. By tomorrow morning, let's count and see how many new trustee accounts we have.
No
we have in
pressure.
the system.
No pressure.
No pressure or anything. Oh, we could wait till Monday too if you wanted to. All right, so that is a new chapter, and here is going to be something that will have promise all sorts of fun for you and your fellow board members. Nancy mentioned that the new trustees handbook will have an appendix that will include all sorts of goodies. I mean, the current version has an appendix too, but we're chucking a lot of stuff into it this time. Including, but not limited to, board evaluations so that you as trustees can evaluate your own job performance and how your own trusteeship is working out for you. One of those board-related evaluations is one we call Tech Savvy Trustees. And I've used this concept a lot in a lot of different iterations, most often as an in-person class when I do board education on site all around Northwest District. I've used it in-state, out-of-state, all around the town. And the reason this is increasingly important is because there are really so many really compelling reasons why library trustees need to be even modestly tech savvy and conversant with some of the terminology. For one thing, it's the year 2020, right? So the time has come, if not now, when? But then when you consider that to impose a pandemic in the year 2020, it showed all of us, I think, in all of our occupations, it certainly showed us here at the State Library that it's become even more critical for individuals in all walks of life and all occupations. It's critical for school personnel. It's critical for governments at the local, state, and national level. And it's critical for libraries themselves and library boards and staff to have the ability to function in an increasingly techie world. So boards can no longer afford to be dismissive of technology. And of course, we all know, Nancy, Jay, Samantha, and I all know that we're preaching to the choir because you're here with us today and you logged in to a Zoom room. So this online learning really has become kind of the way of things in 2020 and increasingly so. So that's our rationale behind wanting to present a tech-savvy trustee checklist. You will see it presented that way in the appendix. But I just wanted to show you a trick that you're welcome to grab hold of, because I've used this as another method of doing this when I do, again, in-person board education programs. I use a tech-savvy bingo card. And you can see here that each square includes some kind of a techie skill. So in person, I distribute this to the audience face down. I learned that the hard way, face down and with highlighter pens, because the first time I ever tried this, I had a big group and I was just, throwing the bingo cards out there and saying, pass these back to the back of the room. Well, this maybe takes 30 seconds for somebody to shout out a bingo. And the first time I did this, somebody in the front row shouted out bingo before the people in the back of the room even got their card. So what I thought would be a really fun exercise kind of fell. So if you choose to do this, keep your bingo cards upside down is all I'm saying. And it's such a quick and easy thing to do. It takes just seconds for someone to shout out bingo, and I would have a nice little door prize, bingo prize for whoever shouted out bingo first, but this really could be something that you grab a hold of for yourselves. It sets up a good opportunity, I think, and a safe zone really for people to talk about some of the terminology you might see on here that they're unfamiliar with. In fact, I've done another flavor of these bingo cards where instead of the actions like I have a Kindle or I read ebooks, the squares are vocabulary terms, techie vocabulary terms, to see if people can define them.
Or understand what they are.
Yes.
I would want a prize for filling out the whole card. For if I had a trustee who could fill out the whole card, I would definitely have a prize, a nice prize waiting.
Oh, I thought you said you. I thought you said you could win a prize for filling every square.
Well,
come on now.
No, I'm not a trustee, so I wouldn't.
Oh, okay.
I would not get them all.
It is a fun thing to do. So try your hand at this. You can easily make it in a Word document. Think of your own little tech-savvy things, and just plop a table in a Word document, and it's just that easy, and it is fun. All right, so with that, what we want to do, because it's kind of hard to play tech-savvy bingo in a Zoom room, what we want to do, though, is bring forward one more poll. And it's this one. The question is, in what ways do you feel tech-savvy? We're not giving you all of the choices on the bingo card, just a few. But go ahead and tell us, in what ways do you feel tech savvy? I think libraries with a Zoom account might get 100% here, thanks to
the pandemic.
Thanks to all things COVID that have pushed us into Zoom rooms 8 hours a day. I miss my car, Nancy, I'm just saying.
I know. We have not been traveling around the state like we normally do. So thank you for doing meetings with the state library staff via Zoom or another online product, whatever you have access to.
Yes, for
we
sure.
We are more than happy to join you, just probably not in person yet.
We thank you for that, and that reminds me that so many of the county meetings that we typically do, certainly in Northwest, I'm not sure how prevalent they are elsewhere, but in Northwest, county meetings were the big deal in the fall, and we all gathered together for hot chocolate and pumpkin bars, and they're all rolling into my Zoom room this fall season.
Not getting those pumpkin bars either. That's too bad. I've been the recipient of some of those.
I know.
Those have been awesome.
Now I have to make my own. All right. Do we see much more movement here in this? Not much.
No, I think it's kind of sitting still.
Okay, let's end the poll then. Thanks for playing our games, and take a look at the results here.
So I think totally understandably, the one that got the least, only 18%, was the chat service.
Right.
Because that is a brand new service that we have provided from the state library with our CARES Act funding from the federal government. That was what we spent half of our CARES Act fund on, was this chat service, Bold 360 chat, that allows librarians to chat with the community members. So they don't have to answer the phone. They can they can do chat. And I will say, for a large population of communities, all of the millennials, so anyone born from 1980 to 1999, I think, they don't do phone calls, and they don't do email anymore. So if you don't do chat, you're missing out on a large portion of your population. And that is a large topic of the book for the next month's discussion. So I thought that was really important as I was reading that, and it brought home the importance of that chat service. And it is provided free. So the one that I think is the most, the most popular is the Monday morning eye opener. So kudos to Bonnie for writing that every week.
Oh, I'm so flattered.
77%, and that is sent online. So that's the only way you're going to get it, and the only way you're going to read it.
That's right. That's the only way you get it. It drops to your inbox. So that's kind of techy.
And then we're really close to a tie with 69% for using Bridges ebooks or downloadable audios or magazines even, because Bridges does have magazines. So that's awesome. And then 1 point below that is you access your email using your vendor's webmail service. So you don't have to necessarily be in the office to get your email. You can access it remotely. And accessing your voicemail remotely is always a good thing too.
Oh yeah.
Didn't think to put that one on the bingo card. But
There's
well.
a new square for our next bingo card. Well, thank you for playing our game.
And thank you for being technology. This says that there's pretty good technology knowledge with at least the people who are attending tonight. And as Bonnie said, we know we're preaching to the choir.
All right, where we are at that segment of the evening where we wanted to try this snappy feature of our Zoom rooms, and that is to bump you into small group discussions, into small breakout rooms. We have the questions queued up here on the slide, and we will remind you of those when we meet you in these small group rooms, but I will let Sam come in with some instructions for you to explain how this is going to work.
Good deal. You guys are very lucky that you get to hear my dulcet tones, because the smoke detector testing happens tonight, which I was warned about 3 times, and it did not stay in my head. And so I don't have the noises anymore, but I do have some flashing lights. So this will be fun. But I think I talked to a guy and he said they're going to come back at 7:30. So I asked him if I could bring him cookies, and he didn't answer me, but I will assume he wants cookies tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to be using the Zoom breakout rooms. If you're not familiar with these, it's sort of like a small group discussion. I have it set up so that Zoom is going to automatically send you out to a breakout room where Nancy, Bonnie, and Jay will lead a discussion on one of these 3 questions. And at what, 7 o'clock, Bonnie? Is that our target?
Yeah, that's our target.
Okay, at 7 o'clock, I'm going to pull us all back together where we will have a debrief. So there should be no buttons for you to push or anything like that. But just be prepared that you'll be with a smaller group of people. Also, before we go out, I'm going to allow folks to unmute themselves so that as we go through this, as we go into these breakout rooms, you can share your own experience or your library's own experience with the whole group. So Jay and Bonnie and Nancy, I have you all set up into one room each. So I'm going to send folks out, and I will see you back in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Hello to everyone who's just rejoining us in the main room. We should be having a whole flood of people here in the next couple seconds. I see Nancy. I lost lights here in the library. So from fire alarms to lights, maybe I've learned my lesson to not try and do nighttime webinars in the state library office here.
It could have been the stories we told the other day about that those same things happening
if I
to
turn my
us
camera
even at home. Even at home, it happens.
Must be a pretty good camera on there. I don't look super dark, do I? Pretty dark.
It looks cool. It looks cool. I like it.
Yeah, kind of Halloween-y, huh?
Mood lighting.
Well, what'd you learn?
What'd you all talk about is what we want to know. And so Mary Johnson with the Albert City Public Library was in room number 1, and our topic was, what if you needed to hire a new director? What skills or abilities would you look for, and why? That was our question, and Mary has offered to report back the conversation.
Yes, we talked about people skills. That you need to be friendly and welcoming when people come into a library. That's something that's very important. You need to have enthusiasm for the job. Just, if you don't have a good feeling about it, and that will show through. And I know lots of times people are nervous, and that, but showing enthusiasm for the job is important. We talked about having budget experience. It would be very helpful. I don't know if it's absolutely necessary. I came into the job without having a lot of budget experience, but you learn it very quickly. Computer skills are very needed. The computer skills absolutely, they change, they evolve over the years, and so you really need to keep up on that. And the younger people, of course, have a lot of great computer skills, and I agree with the discussion that we had earlier that all the board needs to brush up on their skills. And so grant writing skills could be important. I know we get a lot of our funding and supplies or books through doing grant writing, and so that is important, but something that can be learned as well. Be knowledgeable and relate to the board. That is wonderful, but something that you learn as well. When you've got a great board and you have that respect is really good, especially in an interview. You can tell if someone is respectful or not, maybe even by the way they dress. That's important. And you do have to have that good communication with your board and with your staff. And you need to have a friendly and accommodating nature. Our director has very many facets to their job, and you just have to be able to accommodate all sorts of areas in library land. You have to be a self-starter. Get it done. There are many tasks that are required, and you need to look for someone that is a self-starter and will accomplish things, accomplish the goals that you have for your library. And the last but not least are two more, community relations. Someone that is involved in the community will do your library well. But again, coming into a library, then you do get involved with the community. You become a person who is part of the chamber, and then with the chamber comes a lot of community activities that you are involved in, and so I think that's kind of a domino effect. The last thing is leadership skills. That's could be very important too, because you are in a position of leadership. You have employees underneath you, and you have a board that is above you, and you need to be able to come to the board with education, to educate your board, to do that continuing education. And so you need to have those leadership skills. You need to know how to communicate. And so those are the things that we came up with. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mary. Thanks to my small group. There was lots of chatter and all sorts of good ideas that came from that. So thank you so much, Mary, for speaking for the group.
You're welcome.
And then I will take on the next one. We had the question on issues dealing with budgeting and or funding, any challenges. And Carrie from the Urbandale Library popped up and offered to be our spokesperson. So I'll let you, Carrie, report on what we talked about.
Certainly, many thanks. Shy is not one of them. So we talked, there were several libraries who confirmed they had spending freezes, either currently during the pandemic or zero increase growth budgets. One library had a spending freeze where they haven't been able to purchase anything new, I think starting in August, at least until December, maybe more to come depending on what happens with the pandemic. One library's been requested a 0% growth budget for at least 1 to 2 years. And a couple had mentioned that they have had their total budget capped. They have a little freedom within their budget to kind of shift some things around, but the total budget was capped by the city. Most libraries indicated that they were able to keep their staff on board during the pandemic, keep them working, keep everybody getting paid full time, and keep everybody at their standard number of hours. A lot of libraries had to come up with creative solutions for keeping their staff working and for rethinking how to spend their funds during the pandemic, especially. Some actually gained a little money, you know, from not buying new collections because the libraries were closed, or canceling magazine subscriptions and things like that. So they kind of shifted funds around to different sources. One example we had was summer reading prizes. They actually combined a couple of the things we talked about in supporting local, which was when they did summer reading prizes, they actually purchased gift cards from local businesses, supporting local businesses, doing prizes for the summer reading programs, and keeping the kids reading during the summer instead of, you know, sitting in front of the TV or Netflix all the time. We've also, my own personal library, we discussed that we've had some discussions with City Council on budgeting practices and working with the City Council on how budgets are compared to other city budgets. So for example, some of the City Council members like to look at everything on a per capita basis, which works for some things, not for others, and some, you know, not everybody's library budget is the same. So the library budget in Urbandale may not be the same as it is in Washington, Iowa, et cetera. We may not have all the same line items. So it's not exactly apples to apples to do a per capita comparison, but it's a simplistic version, and it's just an education thing of how to speak to the City Council and the city admin on that. Let's see, I think that was most of my notes. Did I miss anything, Nancy?
I think you caught it. I know
Okay.
John from Washington, I believe, said that they were making a concerted effort to purchase local in their collections. So instead of buying from Amazon, they're trying to get it locally. That might be Walmart, that might be other smaller shops, which is kind of a nice atmosphere, especially during the pandemic when we're trying to support all our local shops. We here at the State Library had heard of some pretty severe budget cuts in libraries across the state. It doesn't sound like any in our group were affected by that. However, if any in this larger room have been, please feel free to either speak up or write in the chat. And you know, that's a horrible position to be in, and definitely a challenge that trustees have to find then creative solutions to help keep the library functioning at the best level it can. So I don't know if people are welcome to speak up if they want. If not, write something in the chat. But yeah, good job, Carrie. And it was a good group. We had a good discussion and some interesting different ways that our libraries, especially in the last 7 months, have had to deal with budget issues and have been trying to be proactive and creative. So kudos to all of you. And then Jay.
Hi, thanks, Nancy. We had our signals crossed, and we actually discussed what skills make a good director. But we had such a fantastic discussion that talked about all kinds of wonderful things. And so we were supposed to really talk about advocacy, but we had such a good group, and we have John's going to talk for our group, and I know he'll do a great job. Thanks, John.
You're welcome. What we were considering needing for a director, or needing in a director, would like to see 1 to 3 years of library experience so they know what they're getting into, as opposed to somebody that's just coming freshly out of school and they have the academic training but not the practical as to how it comes together and how it's actually applied. Also looking at something that is hard to determine, and that's, are they planning on staying? Or are they going to be there for 1-2 years and then move on to someplace else, and you have to start this process all over again? Probably the biggest thing that we felt was necessary is the ability to communicate. They need to be a team player to the place where they're talking with staff, they're talking with other librarians, they're talking with trustees, they're working with city administrators. They need to be able to communicate with all of them. That also takes into account, you've got to be able to communicate positively with all of the patrons that come into the library. whether it's the 2-3-year-old child, the elementary student that needs help on the computer, or you need help from the elementary student on your computer, the high school students, the young adults, the young parents that are bringing in their kids, the older adults. You've got to be able to talk with the rich, the poor, the unemployed, the unemployable, the employed, the whole works. We felt the positive work ethic was important. Dedication to library services. So that's what's concentrating on in their mind. We had mention of tech experience, to the place where they were not afraid of the computer. They knew how to use them. They were willing to keep abreast of what's going on. We found it a plus to have accounting background, somebody that understood accounting terms and understood budgets and could work budgets around. Thought about the hiring internally, where you've got somebody that already knows the library, not library land, but knows the library, that can then provide that expertise and perhaps fill in the blanks of what was already there. What else that we have not already covered? I think that's it. Team player, decisive, able to make decisions, and a leader. Somebody that can lead the employees, the staff, and also can provide direction to the trustees as they make the decisions that affect the library. I think I covered it.
You did fantastic. We also discussed a very wonderful story from the director was saying how their director jumped in and helped people from a nearby town apply for FEMA stuff, and that was really wonderful, and stepping up, and that libraries are being those kind of anchor institutions and helping people out when there's big problems. So I thought that was a really great story, and I wanted to make sure we mentioned that as well. So thanks, John.
Thank you, John. Absolutely, and to all of you who played our game in the breakout rooms. I asked the question if people kind of liked that feature, because we have had some commentary about the Boardroom series that we wished people would say to us in the evaluations, boy, I wish we just had time to talk amongst ourselves. And so we wanted to try to incorporate that tonight. So I think it went pretty well.
For that to happen more.
Yes, I think it went pretty well.
Sorry, Bonnie. I do want to touch on that third question just a little bit, which was about advocacy, because that is a major role of library trustees, is speaking up for your library and supporting your library in the community, whether, well, I don't want to say too many things because I'm hoping you do that. So I'm going to ask people to just chime in a little bit in the larger group and say what you've done for advocacy as a trustee, either the group as a whole or you as an individual. Are there any ideas that could help somebody else and give them ideas on how to be a good advocate for your library? Anybody attend Ledge Day, the ILA Legislative Day at the Capitol in March?
There's a good one. Or Lobby from Home Day. That's always sponsored typically in February of the year.
I was also going to mention here, this is Sam, if you do have something you want to say but you're scared to speak up because you don't want to talk on top of anybody else, feel free to raise your hand and we can call on you. But I don't see too many people even unmuting right now, but I know there's great stuff going on. So if you know where that raise hand feature is, you can do that. Otherwise, just be brave. Be brave like Carrie, right? Many things, but shy isn't one of them.
Well, John put in chat that doing county supervisor presentations, that's all people are talking about right now this time of year. So
sure,
that's a good example of it.
Everybody seems to do it a little different, so check in. No one knows what's going on this year, so check in with your county supervisors before you go do that.
Does anybody speak about the library at any groups they belong to, such as Kiwanis or Rotary or Lions or something like that? Anybody done any pep talks or presented about the library, talked about services you've had
I do see Francie unmuted. So Francie, if you want to, or the person signed in as Francie Hill, if you want to talk a little bit, you're unmuted. Feel free.
Okay, we actually that our new librarian and one of our board members went to University Women, had a good turnout there, and I just think the most important thing of this whole thing is relationships with the community, because people do not understand that the library is one of the few services our city has that doesn't cost any money. There, it's free, it's open, and I just keep hoping we'll get more and more feedback for ideas. But I just think it's very, very important that people understand that the library is there to serve. And I think more and more we're doing outreach, and that's very important. Okay.
Awesome.
That's
Great.
Yep. I saw Lisa Sherman come off mute. Lisa, if you have anything you want to share.
A couple of things. When we went to the county supervisors in the last year or two, we went as presenting just how thankful we were for what they provide. And then we had a huge list of, we couldn't do it without you. That made, I think, a good impression. We got an increase. The other thing locally, just for us, we had gone 119 years without having a director full-time with benefits or having any librarian with those two things. And our trustees, after the death of our previous director, our trustees really went to work with the city council, went to work with the city administrator, and we got that increase. So I'm now full-time with benefits. What was really neat is our city administrator held us up as a department that works well, understands budget, and works well with him. So he couldn't do anything but find the money for us. So I hope it holds.
That's great,
Definitely.
Lisa.
That is great. And I'm seeing some stuff in chat too. So trustees talked to the public about library programs like Bridges. Yes, those one-on-one conversations. Again, like Lisa said, doing the relationship building. Sorry, I drew a blank there for a second. I think that is hugely important. So that's been really good too. And then somebody said going to council meetings other than just for budget, again, building those relationships with your council members. So those are great little things you can do to really help that advocacy. And as a trustee, you really have the impact that your library director does not, because it's all about or the perception is it's all about them just trying to stay hired and get a paycheck and stuff that Lisa was talking about. You know, if she had fought for that, she might not have gotten it. But as a trustee who is not elected, not being paid, you have a lot more influence in having those discussions. So just keep that in mind. You have way more influence than you think you do. And so put it to good use. But that's my view on advocacy. So we're winding down here, and I'm sure you guys all have other things to do with your evening. So we have two questions for you here. The first one you can answer to yourself. But the second one, I alluded to this earlier, I would like some feedback. So in the past, we have printed, the 2009 version got printed and every library got a copy and you could buy additional ones. The 2014, we chose to put online. And if you wanted to print it, you could print it from the website. Which is what we're going to do with this one too. It will be online. It will have a PDF that you can print. But as I have met with other states around the country and we've talked about training our trustees and stuff, some of them have like little pocket digests, and I have a couple different samples in my office that it just really made me think maybe that's something we want to do this time if it would be used. I don't want to print something and just spend money to print something that, you know, gets tossed aside. But if you think you would use it or how you would use it, I envision giving it to every board member so that they don't have to carry around a big version. It's got pertinent information, where to find more information, but it's like just a little pocket digest. Do you think you would use it? write in chat if you think it would be a waste of money. I kind of want feedback on that. And I know you don't know until you see it, but that's kind of what we're thinking about doing with this one. So Manson would prefer the full book. Well, you'll get the full book too.
Online.
Online, yes.
Online. We did not print to paper the 2014 edition, did we?
We did
Nancy,
not.
I don't believe we did. Although I had heard from several Northwest counties that they arranged to do their own printing of for the libraries in the county, which I thought was a very cool collaborative county project.
Yeah, that would be a nice collaborative project. And I'm seeing some online is great, but as a trustee, I appreciate the pocket version. And yes, we'd use it. So, okay, awesome. Thank you. It would be, I think, just a nice size, not as expensive to print as the whole thing, but just a nice little tool to have. So we'll see what we can do about that. And I'm not seeing anybody demanding the whole thing be printed. So thank you. At least we've gotten them a little bit tech savvy in the last several years. That's a good thing.